But let's get started with today. Let us go over some announcements. And I wanted this to make it into the video recording. For some reason, my notifications aren't going out again. It's happened again. It's just it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that I have 100,000 subscribers and they're not getting notifications on my videos. That I worked really hard. I have worked really hard to build this channel, and I work really hard on these videos. And I pour all my knowledge and love into them. And they're a big part of what I do in my job. And I don't know, it's even disconnected from streaming. It's just my channel, my videos themselves. So I don't know what YouTube is doing. Can someone please enlighten me in the comments if you even got to see this video? I'm really bummed out. What happened, you know? Like, what happened to YouTube? Like, ever since Google Plus went down, things have just been super weird and awkward and slow in this community, in this channel. On YouTube as a whole, it bums me out. I pour so much of myself into hosting challenges and getting all this out there, and I feel like, you know, not enough goes out, and it's not fair. But I will try not to be too bummed out today. I will do my best to just keep my chin up and hope for the best. So, a couple of announcements. The community challenge is due next Thursday, and you still have time to make a submission. Please make sure you read through it to get to the community. So if you want your stuff critiqued, you're wondering how to get it critiqued, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. It'll take you to Reddit. And if you want to support the channel for crises such as the one we are experiencing right now, please support on Patreon. My video length will never change. I will never change my content. I will always keep it class style. I won't make 5-minute sessions with TikTok tracks on top. I will not bend to these rules, to these new silly commercial capitalization of channels. I don't plan on turning my videos, which are meant for the education of people, for people to have, to educate, you know, everyone who wants to be an artist, to give them access to some knowledge so that they could find, you know, that goal in there, or they could achieve that goal in their life, or they could get to that satisfaction at looking at something they created them by themselves, to learn a skill that is probably the hardest skill to learn. I want to keep creating these videos for people, and I don't want to take them down. And YouTube, I thought, was a decent enough platform to share my tutorials as any other channel is doing, but my channel seems to just be oppressed somehow, and I don't know how to correct that. So this is why I usually couple that with the call for Patreon, and that's just $1 a month from everyone. I'm giving a lot for very, very little, and at this point I can't even give a lot anymore. No one is even getting any notifications. So yeah, if you want to support through Patreon to keep this channel alive, no matter what happens, if I have to do a complete relocation, if I have to take all my videos down off of YouTube and go somewhere else, I don't know. I feel like a big change is coming. I'm kind of scared, but I'll figure it out when the time comes to it with your support as well. But yeah, and that's it for announcements, really. I don't really have anything else going on. It's just the Halloween challenge I'm super excited about. Can't wait to see your submissions. If people are even going to participate, I really don't know. It's in the air. If 1 or 2 people participate, I will still post the critique hour. It's not you guys' fault. You're just not getting the notifications to join. It's nobody's fault really, other than YouTube. So let's talk about this piece. Right off the bat, it's a tile canvas, meaning it's a squared canvas. It's useless to you. You've cut off breathing space on the left and right because it's not horizontal, it's not environmental. And you've cut off the top and bottom. It's not vertical, so it's not commercial in any way. You can't really publish it. It's not a book. It's not a comic book cover. You have no aesthetic within which this style can fit. So decide on how you're going to build the scene. So for me, I could go either vertical or horizontal. Let me go horizontal. Actually, let me go vertical just because I don't feel like painting in the rest of the wings. It shouldn't be too hard. Let me go horizontal. So I'm just going to widen the canvas just to help us create some environment. So why should I widen the canvas if there is nothing on either side, if it's just more nothing? Don't worry about that. Just do it, because the reason why we widen the canvas this way is so that we give the viewer the feeling like they are looking at an environment in front of them with their two eyes. It's not an unusual constricted media type tile. It's not some kind of design or anything like that. We're literally looking at sorry, one second, my brain turns off when I start lassoing. We are literally looking at an environment, a character in front of us to complete the scene with. So I am just going to complete these feathers here. Okay. I'm gonna give them all a value. And give these guys a slightly darker value. Oops. Am I still? Oh, okay. I'm still good. That's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I've been doing this since 2013, and I'm just watching this channel that is my livelihood, that is my entire life, just get turned into, you know, a dead channel. It's really heartbreaking. Like it's tear-inducing, you know. It makes me feel like I've been disregarded, and that's like the last thing I need to be feeling lately. Been feeling a lot of that lately, that's for sure. So it's hard to stay positive in that kind of situation. The next thing I'm going to do is do a bit of surgery. So I am going to try to lasso this whole thing out, which is going to be hell, because the reason why magic wand isn't working is because of you literally have no light environment. So let's talk about what mistakes you made. You have no light environment at all. You have a character that is in the dark but is fully visible. You have no direct light source that makes absolutely any sense. You have lines still visible, which is fine, you know, and I get you guys love your lines, but they are killing the piece in the way that you actually don't really rely on your edges enough. Your edges aren't present for you to work with. When your edge isn't visible, you're not going to feel the need to work with it. Your brain will react to the edge once it sees it. If the line is there providing and creating like this satisfying kind of contrast, you won't feel the need to react and provide some contrast yourself. Oh my god, it's lassoing every line. So let me put it down to 5. Jeez Louise, it's probably going to get all the lines even at 1. Really? At 5 as well? Sorry guys, because the impact is so wonderful. I really want to show you the benefit of having lines, having edges that I always say the wrong thing. that I really want to push this lasso as far as possible. Just to make sure. Oh, you son of a bitch. All right. Oh my God. Okay, so I am going to select this background and then bring it down. Bring these feathers back, merge them here so that now we have character, background, and then I found a reference piece that might help us. Really? All right. Save image as, it's gonna say it was a web file. You son of a... Let me see if I could just screenshot what I need. Oh no, I closed the comments. I closed you guys. So let me open that up real quick. All right, so I'm gonna grab that and put that here and just photo bash the background really quickly, and then the magic will start. And then we'll talk about exactly what you did wrong and how to fix it. So I'm gonna add a very basic background, really similar to the one you had. I'm gonna lower the opacity just a little bit. And that should sort of be enough. That should kind of take care of a lot. And then I'm going to merge that down. Okay, so now we can play around. Right here, what we need to do is show how the different types of lighting scenarios that'll make this guy work. So what you did was that you darkened him and lit up his eyes, lit up a little bit of him, barely lit the background, but he's still visible. So what's missing there in that order? He should not be visible unless there's some significant light behind him. So if you want to keep him dark and you want to keep those eyes glowing, and there's different ways to do it, you can illuminate the background behind him. So I'm just going to use dodge tool, midtones. And of course we can just go and rely on our handy dandy silhouette. And the silhouette will do a lot because it'll be able to just complete the entire scene. I know it looks like poopy right now, but this silhouette will take care of the fact that the character is in shadow. You have wings on this character. This character has some kind of, dangerous aspect to them. And so to really get the most out, you just have to provide this silhouette. Okay, all right, provide this silhouette. Maybe a little bit of framing there. And then we'll be able to see the character a little bit better. All right, so we have a nice shadow on the bottom. Character is nice and dark. Oh, that's too dark. And then of course we have that subsurface scattering that runs along the wings. All right, and I'm just gonna finish that right there. Dare I raise it? Oh my God, you guys are so obsessed with lines. Oy. Just delete. Okay, so subsurface scattering is a combination of shading and darkening, as well as raising the areas where there's a ton of light. And so we have this like see-through effect that's also saturated that comes through the wings. And you can have a little bit of that rim light down here. So this is one of them, the typical silhouette you could rely on. All right, and then you have a nice dark character. And maybe they've reached the light just a little bit. And then you'll need some kind of bounce light coming up. So you have a little bit more environment to explain where all this is coming from. And then of course we have some kind of light behind the character doing this. All right, and that's completed it. Let me add a bit of glare that way. It's a very dirty brush for this job. It's a quick job. All right, and so the thickets of the forest are still there. The character is still really very visible. The textures are different, so not everything feels like it's made out of the same material. And you can even mess around with foreground objects here to show a little bit more of the character. We don't need to see the feet of the character. Showing the feet of a character in movies is funny. That's a comedic tool. You can't show the feet too much. If it's an action scene, it's very different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about showing the way, like in Napoleon Dynamite, you know, those zoomed out moments where you see the character's feet and they're just facing each other, or in Nacho Libre, the way you see the character's feet in a full body shot, like a zoomed out shot. Those are funny because we're seeing this really awkward scale between all these characters, and it's actually pretty hilarious because you're not usually, when you look at people, you see up until like maybe their waistline. So storytelling has satisfied what we're used to seeing in movies. So we have this quick little setup here, and you can mess around with it. It doesn't have to be perfectly from the top. It could be dark at the top, and it could be a little bit of light reaching through the trees. It doesn't have to be something, not too much though. It doesn't have to be you don't have to do any more work other than expanding the canvas on either side so that we could take a look at the difference between, so that we could benefit from it and just take a look at the difference between it. So before, after, just a little bit more environment, nothing really changed. But how do we change things so that they are on a completely new level? So right before I did all of that, I'm going to try to change the environment a bit more. So we have all that separated. This is a good point. It's really raining hard outside, so I'm sorry if I cut out or if I disconnect. Let me just save this. Just am I doing it right? Yes. Okay. Okay, so how do we do things in a way that is similar to what I just did, but also we can keep the character a little bit more visible? So I'm going to get that little spotlight that I like to use. Where are you? Right there. And I'm going to actually make the light come in from the side, meaning that we're pretty much going to darken the background scene. But it's going to be a light coming in from this side. It's not going to be the typical silhouette that I add. I'm going to keep that subsurface in the wings because it's great, but I'm not going to worry too much about anything else. Okay, it's really raining now. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's slapping. All right, so the light is going to come in from the side to illuminate the background behind him. I'm going to clean it up. Oops, wrong one. There. All right. Wow, that's distracting. And then I'm going to put the light on top of the character. So this is neither silhouette nor is it head-on light. You can keep the glowing eyes, you can keep the dark environment. But really, other than that, there's no there's no real change that's happening to the scene, and there's no real immediate light source. This is the only option you have. So I'm going to darken this wing because it's in front of the spotlight. So as you can see, this spotlight is going to cast a shadow down over the rest of the scene, just like that. And it's going to cast a shadow that fans out. And then on the character themselves, we're going to see a little bit of an illumination, just like we had last class, where I brought Dodge Tool all the way up and just added that really, really strong rim light. It's not rim light anymore because we're not looking at an angle where we only see the rim of the character. We're actually seeing light head on coming in from the side, like any other portrait you're doing where the light is coming from the side. So I will go back and bring this down. It's not necessarily a glowing rim light. This is not rim light. This is just the angle at which the light is coming in. This here, this part of the wing is rim light, because we are looking at a point where the light, we are on the shadow side of the wing. So we would see only the rim of the light that's still hanging out, illuminating this organic material. Again, this is not rim light if I illuminated this wing, because this is just regular old light core shadow. All right, and then the shoulder will also cast a shadow. Oopsie. The shoulder will also cast something of a shadow over the rest of the image. So you can cast a shadow in two ways: by actually deleting, just like this, or by stopping where the light can reach when it comes to the not rim light. It's not really rim light, but where the light can reach on the basic light that you're adding. So we're adding a little bit of light over here on his hands. I'm going to illuminate his eyes, and then I'm going to maintain the shadow of his hood, because that, even though the light is flooding forward, it's not like an actual film, unless there's smoke or fog or something. That behaves like a film in front of the character, like a really see-through curtain. But light doesn't behave like that in plein air too much. And it's nighttime, so we wouldn't really be picking up too much of that unless you want fog to be there. So I'm going to darken the hood and work my way out into finding where all these pockets of light, where they're being rejected. All right, so this area of the hood will be deleted a little bit more, and I'll blend that out. And then we've got the pocket of shadow that's happening outside of the character on the wing itself. That is also getting deleted. I'm going to use soft brush for that. So we're creating levels. And then it's going to be the far side of every other major part. So basically we're just rendering. Right, the pocket of shadow on the inside of the arm, which is going to be a step below everything else, but cutting, making sure that anything above that is still illuminated. So we're showing how the light is flooding in, and I'll bring a little bit more back in once I have that step down, so that the sleeve and the chest don't share the same value. And then I'm going to just make sure that the atmosphere feels right, that the light is coming in from the side right here. And then the far part of the wings, this far part, which earlier I added subsurface to, there's nothing causing that subsurface anymore. So those wings could actually drop quite a few values down. And then just the base of the wings down here would get a little bit of light. Again, this is rim light down here. And these wings get more subsurface because they're just out in the outskirts of the wing. So they don't get enough leveling with different feathers to turn opaque anymore. So that's really what gets rim light. Anything that is not reinforced with other material. Even, our skin is translucent. Translucent means that it's not fully see-through, which is transparent. It's just partially see-through. And then I'm just going to use Liquify to fix this. I don't know why Liquify is doing that. To fix these feathers here, because the lasso did not work very well. Okay, so this all only is possible because we increased the size of the canvas. We picked how the viewer is participating in the illustration. So the size and type of canvas you use is the viewer's participation. Write that back. Okay. All right, and then I'm just going to continue Now that I have a couple levels in between everything, oh geez, I'm just going to continue pushing these values a little bit more. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to choose a color wash. This blue is fine. And I'm going to apply it to anything I can find that may need it. So this character here, the background could use one. And then we're just bringing this stuff down. All right. And then really it just comes down to what else is happening in the story. Now that we increase the size of the canvas, what's happening is that we are now requiring some extra stuff to show. We as the viewers feel like, you know, we're looking at just a character in empty space just standing there. So now you can bring in those really, really cool, you know, dying trees in the background, stuff like that. So I'm being very careful with where I add this floodlight here and where I add the glare. So did I lock the layer and forget? Okay. So over here, I forgot to delete some stuff. Well, that was the floodlight. So I can probably bring that back. It's just on the outskirts. So question, you know, am I allowed to allow this much light to, you know, sit on the top half of the canvas? Typically, no, we might have to frame it, but it actually looks just fine if you were to catch up the contrast in some way on the other side. So over here. So I'm just going to continue that rim light. And just seeing where things sit in this environment. And then move forward after that. Okay, so it's not a lot of changes, but it's enough that it is creating a nice space around the character. Right. Right, so because this isn't rim light, I'm going to have to blend it just so it feels a little bit more appropriate, like actual shading. Right, and then I'm going to add the glow. And I'm going to try to use burn tool to bring all this stuff down a little bit. The sleeve, we're not trying to keep that sleeve glowing. It should really be like that. So I'm trying to find this middle ground where I can allow the light to flood in, but not kill the contrast too much. So now the character's still in shadow. They still look like a character that is approaching the viewer, that is dangerous, but definitely not just overexposed and cheesy. Something in between, something a little bit more cinematic. Come on, where are you? Where are those lights? They're there. Okay, so again, I'm trying to apply it in a way where it's a believable floodlight coming in just as a break through the trees, and I'm trying to bring it in radially. So this is like the main ray. And I'm gonna try to let some of it be fuzzy now that I've managed all of those edges. And you can see that instinctively, now I know, I know the benefit of these edges because I've seen them. And I've reacted to them the way you would when looking at form study, if you do your form studies, that is. So I don't know if I want to break this ray a little bit. Yes, definitely. And it might be as easy as, whatever is in the way. of that. So because you've got edges, because you've got lines, I really have to go and clean that up, because lines and rim light don't mix. You need to really start canceling out your lines. I get it, you needed them, and they made the painting work for a little while, and they make your art visible. But lines are something you rent. They are not something you keep. They are something that actually keeps you from seeing the true benefit of what you've created. And edges are the way to go. So if you are having issues with knowing how much forth, how to move forward, with creating illustrations, it's the first step is getting rid of your line. What do I replace my line with? Now that my line is gone, you replace it with an edge. You place it with the edge of a shape, a geometric shape that helps you understand this object that until this point has been outlined. Once you've identified what object helps you figure out this, what geometric shape helps you figure out this object, you can move forward. Before I do anything else, I am going to clean up this mess because it is driving me crazy. All right, so just that. This way I have a nice clean feather edge. All right, so these are the different options. Remember, we didn't go for complete silhouette. The light is coming from the side, but there is a rim light happening. There's the light on the object as well as a little bit of glare, not glare, the spotlight, the bloom, and then the extra, I don't know what the hell that layer is, and then the extra points where the light has rejected, or the wings have rejected a little bit of light. There are little breaks in the wings as well, so we could have extra little, I don't want to add too many God rays is super cheesy. Like, look at that, we added just one extra one, it already feels like too much. So be careful with that. And then I'm just going to complete the silhouette on the bottom, because not only did you show the legs, but you showed the legs like in the canvas, which looks cheesy. Really, you're just supposed to be cropping until here. We don't need to see anything else, but you highlighted the legs. And then there are his tail feathers, which might be catching some light. Just like that. So I'm gonna try to clean that up. That was some heavy rain just now. That was crazy. Okay, so I'm showing where the little breaks are in between between the feathers. For some reason in my mind, leaves and feathers are like synonymous with each other. And I'm gonna try to get rid of these lines. I'm just gonna keep moving forward, getting rid of the lines. A little bit of extra light there. So you've decided to present this character in their environment, in the situation of their environment. So you don't need to worry about, oh, I need to show more of the character because I'm I'm trying to show off the character. If you're trying to show off the character, don't choose a dark background. And then finally, we have an issue, a tangent. You have the hood aligned in such a way where the outline that we expect for the other part of the wing clicks in perfectly like a puzzle piece with the head of the hood, with the head and the hood. So we need to look at how much better it looks, just so we could cross-section this real quick. And just examine that one section. Get the top layers. Look at how much better it looks when you take the head off, right? Now we're looking at something really interesting because now we can see the shape of the wings. But you put the head right where the wings are supposed to be for the relief point of the wings, which is the point where we get to see the space in between the wings. We need to see the space in between objects in order to understand what these objects are, or else we're just looking at a big black box of stuff. So that's not acceptable. We have to be able to look at the space in between the objects to discern the object. So the reason the wings aren't necessarily reading is because you canceled out that space. So because I don't want to lower his head any lower, I'm going to try, despite adding all these levels of light, I'm going to try to move the wing, which I should have done early on. I'm going to try to move this whole wing over so that the head has its own space, as well as the light. As well as the wing. So right there somehow the wing is sitting. And then we've got the dagger now also a little bit more visible too. It's benefiting from that. Okay, so it's a lot more cool like that because we can actually see everything. Oh, I didn't have to lose too much. All right, and so I'm just gonna push that back, and I'll fix the colors. I want to add a little bit of extra rim light here. So a couple rules that we learned. Keeping your edges, keeping your lines prevents you from noticing that, you know, your edges, and your edges not having them prevents you from building real core shadows because you never thought about the geometric object. And you can still have a silhouette without the light being behind the character. It can still come in from the side. And what other fundamentals have we learned today? Can anyone remind me? Let me correct. This color right here. And then I'm just gonna fix this rim light because it's a little cheesy. When you use too much rim light, it gets cheesy fast. So be careful. A little bit of rim light goes a long way. Composition, good. God sending storm since you dissed the God rays. What if you just take the smudge tool to all those lines and the feathers? That's too much smudging. That's too much smudging. You just need to show how the feathers overlap. So really what I'm supposed to be doing is showing how these non-primary feathers, I'm not really sure what they're called, are a little bit lighter in general than the ones underneath. So these outskirt feathers right here are just generally lighter than the rest of the feathers, just like that. So you're like showing different tiers of feathers, but there should be like 2 more layers of feathers, if I'm not mistaken, between the primaries, which are the only ones you see now, and these ones. So they really should be on a different tier, on a different level, and I'm gonna just keep it a slightly different. And then once we move down here, things get dark again because the light is coming in. So what I want to do is limit the amount of light touching this feather section, because there's a certain point where the light stops coming in. And just like that. Okay, so then we have to start framing, which is we can't let too much light sit on the edge of the canvas. And we have to make sure all these little guys stay in the dark. This far side stays in the dark. Oh man, there's so many layers here. Okay. And then I would want to like kind of exaggerate where all that light is coming from, so that if we have a fully dark image from either side and then that light shooting in to reveal the character, it actually looks a lot better. But because there's some trees you want to show off, you could show them off now. So let me see if I could try to force those trees back in here. You just have to make sure that the light is still coming in from that side. Rasterize. So usually what I do is I flip through layer modes to see if anything works. Like that works just fine. That's kind of acceptable. Actually, it's fine. And then what I'm gonna do is just filter, blur, Gaussian blur that space in the distance. As for the size of everything, I don't want to crop anymore. So I feel like you could really increase the size of the character in the image, just so that we're not looking at his awkward little knees anymore. You could make some kind of foliage in the foreground that's slightly catching the light. That's a little bit blurred. Because he looks like he's sneaking, so we want to show a little bit of that. Just because it's kind of an empty scene and he looks like he's hiding or looking for a spot to hide in that doesn't really exist. So he's just kind of hiding in nothing. It just looks a little silly with his little knees as well. So I'm just adding some really, really simple, really super rudimentary foreground stuff that won't even be visible. Alright, so this isn't gonna work. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, just to keep all of that making sense. And then I'm gonna bring back some of the light so we could see some of these objects blurring in the foreground. Okay, so we created a little bit more depth. We built an entire scene. Again, I don't want to overdo the wings, but at the same time, it is about the wings for this character. So, and then I would throw in another little line there. As for like the general colors of stuff, you can just keep it a blue wash. You know, it doesn't have to be anything substantial, any major coloring, because most of your colors are coming from a nighttime scene, and a nighttime scene is a dark scene. There's no light enough to feed anything. And then what you could do is just supplement any moonlight that's supposed to be yellow, you know, anything you want to do. But you could go a little bit more artsy, Frank Miller with it, and just choose some eerie colors. For instance, there's the eerie green color that we know and love. Something like that. You didn't have to have moments of blue and moments of grayscale that actually really didn't make it look very interesting. Or you could go Halloween. Well, obviously I love the blue. I've always loved it. I'm always going to be biased to the blue because it's realistic, and I'm kind of a cheerleader of realism. But please don't imagine me as a cheerleader. And then you know, but it's also fun to have the red stuff like that. That's all really interesting as well. It's very League of Legends. All right, or you can have the red base and the blue overlap with the color of the moonlight, which is going to look like that. So you have a nice overlap between the two. So blue, where that color comes from, and then you could change the base to be a little bit more warm and still have that blue light. Okay. So I wonder if we can add a glint on those daggers. Absolutely. You can, let me find the layer. You can add, actually I'm not even going to try to lasso. Fuck that. They already had a glint on them, so the artist did know that they needed one. I'm just going to push the ones that they already had. I'm not going to try to make my own. This dagger, however, may need a little bit more of a push Give me an R. Give me an so this dagger needs a complete overlap of value, just so it can be a bit more visible. I'm gonna go ahead and merge the whole thing. I don't feel like I need any more layer access. Again, this was a very simple, very simple paint over. And the color corrections are up there. Okay, so flatten. But you can see how much you can add when it comes to the lighting and how little you really needed. A little bit of bounce light on the sleeve. How little you needed from that those lines. So this is a pretty much, you know, the best example I could give you guys for how useless your lines are. If you really want to push environments, you don't need crazy lines. You really don't. I'm going to darken this a little bit more. Now that I have all the layers merged, it's not so awkward for me to move sweeping brush strokes to represent the light source anymore. And then I could really fix up this this wing here, which was a bit of a chicken wing that's been left out overnight. You can't reheat chicken wings. You just can't. It just doesn't work. Have you ever tried reheating chicken wings? I'm just so grossed out by that. Right, so I move the trees a little. Uh-oh. We are frozen. Oh dear. Okay. I'm not frozen anymore. Come on. Alright. I'm gonna desaturate just a little. Oh, did I flatten the whole thing? Oh, I did. It's okay. I flattened the whole thing. So I'm gonna desaturate just a little because I want to keep those fun colors. But yeah, you can move back to this. I feel like this turquoisey blue is the best moonlight color. I feel like it is moonlight, you know, something, even when you stand outside during a full moon, like there's a full moon out right now, you would see those exact colors. Like it's just this turquoisey bluish white. It's such a delicate little color, but it really does make all the difference to just keep a little bit of realism. One thing I want to show you is that you know, you don't like with the whole eyes. It's your character. It's your design. But what you could do is try to make it look like the way bird eyes reflect stuff, or like the way cat eyes reflect stuff. So you could try to make it a little bit more dim, just to show that it's like a slight reflection. Do you see that? So it looks a bit more like a glint than just two big cheesy balls of mozzarella. Do you see that? So it looks more like those cat eye glints, and really the secret to that is just making them a little less visible. And then one thing I want to show is that you can show that the tail feathers, see how silly the legs look now that we have the full illustration? You can show how the tail feathers are on a different value range than the legs. I'm going to add a bit of grass. I'm going to go old school Istebrak 1996. No, I didn't draw that early. I was drawing, but I didn't really take it seriously. 1998, 2001 Istebrak drawing fan fiction stories of the Nazgul. I don't know if you guys have ever seen my, you know, how I started video, but grass went on every pair of shoes you've ever seen. It's kind of like weird because I'm just gonna pretend the grass is long. Oh yeah, the grass is long. It's long grass. What are you talking about? Right, so it's just tall grass. And tall grass should be a little bit taller than that. So maybe I can show how some grass has bent. But if he's sneaking up on someone, like, why would you be walking on tall grass, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, you should not be walking on tall grass. But I'm going to just keep adding grass. Okay, no, that's not gonna work. It's just his chicken legs are just driving me crazy, so I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave it like that. Reflatten the image. Second thoughts about the owl eyes. We'll just keep. We'll honor the original design. I don't want to take away too much. And this is starting to look a lot like outlines around this wing. You know, sometimes not showing the whole thing is showing a lot more. So making this the viewer guess at what they're looking at does a lot more for your image. Underpainting something, making the viewer imagine the rest of it is actually a really, really, really popular technique. I need this edge to be a little bit stronger. See how much nicer it is when it's strong? So I'm gonna try to do that. So under, you know, showing the full wing is extremely cheesy because you're showing too much. This theme keeps coming up, doesn't it? In class, is overshowing your work is like the biggest noob decision, noob mistakes, beginner mistake, overshowing the anatomy, overshowing the, you know, too much light exposure. It always feels super, super cheesy. Because just, have you ever seen old 90s movies? Old 90s movies that are supposed to legit be scary movies. They don't actually, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like boomers resenting their parents in film noir. I don't know what it is about 90s movies, but they showed so much of everything. Everything was visible. Everything was visible. I'm gonna get that turquoise blue light. Oh God, you know, it was, everything went, you know, everything goes. It was just like, show us everything. And that's why it was so boring and so gross and so cheesy, and movies from that time are so cheesy. It's hard to even watch sometimes because they didn't take advantage of any of the storytelling that you can get out of, you know, showing less. They didn't want that. No, it's a scary movie. Viewer must see story. Viewer must see what is in front of them. Well, viewer would not be looking at everything with exposed light had they actually been in this story, had they been the heroes. The viewer would be walking around at night with nothing but the moon to reveal what's in front of them. So why not create a more immersive experience for the viewer and show less? And that's when movie making started to get a lot more mature. That's when realism took hold. You know, that's how realism took hold over storytelling in films. Is that you showed less and less and less, and eventually you're watching a DC movie and you're looking at a black screen. They kind of took it too far, but you know, we've took a couple steps back from that, and then we start, you know, getting something a little less cheesy, a little bit more believable. So I just wanted to boost that ray of light, just that little ray of light. I just wanted to see it do some more, because that's really what's making this scene pop, is that ray of light. So, but yeah, obviously, you know, you don't want to go as far as DC with that whole shit, but something in between. So I'm going to boost one last little light now that I have a good comfortable base, because the reason why it's so much applied to such simple changes is because I had to start from the ground up. We had lines at the start of this, y'all. So it's hard to you know, do all of that. So now I'm pretending I just started the critique so that I could keep pushing this further and actually get a complete before and after. So I'm going to complete that. Now that I have a finished base, a finished layer, I'm going to complete and apply that. A lightsaber would be perfect here. Yeah, it would. A little bit of extra spotlight just to boost it further. And it's about this shadow coming off the hood. I mean, you could really sharpen it. just like that. I don't want it to be that sharp, so I will blur, but it's just a good base for the blur. And then pushing further. So in essence, what is the storytelling? Where is the storytelling coming from now? What has taken the reins of the storytelling? Can anyone answer that question? All right, so I'm trying not to make it cheesy, but I'm also trying to make it really atmospheric, as if we really just landed in that summer night on the grass, and all you can hear is the shuffling in the grass, and you just see this creature, which its wings just fluttered, like, and then you see it landing, and then the story takes over, and the character meets the Strider equivalent in their adventure. So this is like he doesn't feel evil, he just feels like a knowledgeable, powerful, supporting character for a plot. Maybe even the protagonists themselves. So now, no, not the jungle. I wouldn't say the jungle is what's telling the story. Not at all. And then I'm going to try to establish one more light ray. Ooh, wrong layer. I did a boo-boo. All right. So I might keep that sharpness, actually. Second thoughts of the hood. Oopsie. So I have to tilt the canvas, don't forget. Tilt the canvas as if the light source is a vanishing point. So see how everything is coming out of the same source. Oops, see that? And then I'm going to just delete. Problem with this correction is that I forgot I don't have layer access anymore. So I have to be a little bit more careful next time, because I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat it too. And that was not a good idea. So I'm just trying to get that final light ray. And then sometimes when light or moonlight lands on the ground, it glows back up. Again, I lost my freaking layers. I didn't lose them, I gave them up. So we would see some of that light bounce back up a little bit, revealing some stuff here and there. The thing is with the daggers, if you feel like you no longer see enough dagger, if you feel like we're not getting, I don't know, you could have it with more contrast, you could have it with less. Is that, again, it's about showing less. So imagine you were at night walking through the grass, you're just taking your daily constitutional, or nightly constitutional, whatever the hell that means. What the fuck does that even mean? Is it dirty or something? What does it mean? Is it just beer? So yeah, you're taking a walk at night and you see this predator lurking, and then he starts walking toward you. You're not sure. You keep running. You look behind you. You just see the fluttering of a wing. You're not sure. You keep running. You turn back when, you reached a dead end. You reached a cliff. There's always a cliff that sneaks up on you somehow. And you're standing there and you're looking at you turn around, you finally get to see him. The movie, the show, whatever it is finally revealed who the hell this is. And this is one of the final moments the viewer sees before they get killed. And the character is walking towards us. I didn't know where I was going with this. It's just I had no idea where I was going with any of that. I kind of just got caught up in my own story. But yes, this is the final moment where we get to see we get to see the character happen. So showing, and then you're just standing. Now I know what I was talking about. Showing less of the daggers is scarier than showing the entire dagger, because there's the fact that you're not sure that you're even looking at a dagger. You're not sure you're even going to survive this entire ordeal. So showing less of the dagger is scarier, because all you see is a sheen, a metal thing, and then you meet God, and that's it, you're dead. Okay? So Google, a walk or other mild exercise taken for the benefit of one's health out in the woods for an evening constitutional. So I was right in my use for it, right? Umaru, like using Adobe Illustrator to draw anime. The moon it's directly illuminating our subject. Yes, so now the light source is telling the story pertaining to my earlier question. The light source is telling the story. And you could do so much more with this scene. You could really darken it and revealing only where there is light. You remember that trick that I use where I just reveal the light and let the viewer guess at the rest. And it's just so much more classy and professional to keep limiting what the light can see, because it really feels like a legitimate scene, a moment, a cinematic experience that is taking over. So look at that. We darkened it, but it's just as effective, if not more. But depending on how you publish this stuff, maybe you want a little bit more exposure to show your rendering skills and stuff. So remember, it's up to you how you want to interpret these colors. You want to have a beautiful, magical scene where the character is visible in a jungle, in a deep jungle, and it's supposed to be some fairy, forest elf aesthetic type deal. Go for that. But for me, and you know me, I love that nighttime, ghoulish Harry Potter 3. Harry Potter no longer being sweet and bubbly and yellow. Harry Potter went blue. Gothic Harry Potter director's style. You know me, I love that. I love that shit. So I can't do a complete before. I can do a complete before and after, but not as a copy paste because I changed the canvas size. So hopefully I don't lose all my history. So before, constricted. We feel like we're in a straitjacket looking at this. No real light source. What is going on? Your lines, you think your lines are doing so much. Do you honestly think we're sitting here saying, oh my God, look at your lines. They're so clean. Look how well you did with your lines. You think we're sitting here saying that? We're not. We're here saying it looks flat. We're here saying, for the character design. I've seen it. Maybe that's what I say. Maybe others will say. But when you have a character that is actually in a scene, there's like this moonlight, it's shining right on the character. And what's the best way to see wings if not in a moment of silhouette and just seeing them flutter and that character walking toward you? It's not about your lines anymore. It becomes about the light, obviously, because now we're rendering and the scene feels more complete. So I really pushed this so that there's a little bit more magic involved. And this character that's creeping towards us actually has a ground on which they're creeping. If you don't want to keep the spotlight, that's fine. There are earlier versions of this where the spotlight was a lot more mild, something like this. But I just kept pushing it for my style. So there was a moment where I meandered and it became my style. But any of these where you have a wide canvas, and you could probably bring the grass to this one, just so you can have a character that's sneaking up and pushing through the foliage of the forest. If you want to keep this one, go ahead. But you know me, like with the whole Ori and the blind forest feel, I love the magic. I love the little sprites. Hell, I would even add like little glowing sprites here. And again, this is just my style. This is just how I do. This is what I do with my paintings. Oops. And then I usually just do some kind of outer glow with a spread that's high but low opacity like that. Just something like that, just so it looks more magical and glowy and a little bit more immersive. So remember, you have different tiers, you have different levels, you have well, you have something like this that's a bit more mild. So this was at here. So before, after, so something a little bit more mild, just like that. You have the complete before and after with all the extra fixings. And then you have an earlier before and after where we've just illuminated, or we've just expanded the canvas just slightly. So remember, when we fix that wing, we really need to fix that wing. So I don't want to go anywhere where before we fix that wing, but somewhere here is great. But you also can go back to an earlier version. Nope, not that early. Where you just at least have some kind of light behavior telling the story. So that is somewhere here. So you have before, after, before, after, or when I cleaned it up a bit, and then before, Look at, we can't even see the character after. So I hope you learned something from this. You tell a story through the light source. You don't tell the story through the lines, even if you draw a really cool character. For me, when it comes to lines, just leave the lines alone. Just present it with just a sketch, white background, sketch. Don't try to add an environment to lines that are still present, because these lines will work like a gravitational force, like a black hole, and prevent you from covering them up, because God forbid we cover our lines up. So these lines are like a pain body, you know. These lines are like Voldemort's Horcrux voice inside your brain. It'll tell you, don't cover me up, don't you dare, you know, I can do so much for you, we'll be great together. And really it's just lying to you. When you have lines, you're scared of hiding the lines. You put so much effort into drawing. When you have just plain values, you don't feel pain covering them up. So you open the door to more effective storytelling, where you have really, really cool, inventive ways with the light source that you can make this entire painting pop. Before, after. Which were all great. This blurred foreground, just this alone is just fine. We didn't even need to bring the second overhead light. You didn't have to do that. So I'll flatten the image, go back to before the overhead light, paste it, and then you just have maybe a combination of the two. Oh, right, I cut the piece. So I cropped it in the before and after. I like the one with more because we don't have a lot happening, but it's your choice at the end of the day. But as a movie, I see it happening in front of me. There's that initial glare and ching, and the character's dead. All right, any questions at all? You tell a story through the light source, not the lines. Okay, so thank you everyone for watching today. If you want to submit your stuff for Critique Hour, you want your stuff critiqued, you don't know how to get it on my channel, you're curious about how to improve, go to istebrak.com and click on the Reddit icon here. You can submit your work here to get critiqued. This was a pretty old piece submitted on the Reddit, but it made it into my critique queue folder. Just because I wanted to cover these different lighting options for you today and just talking about different ones. But eventually I'll get to you guys if you do post something. Usually I critique studies as well as masterpieces or attempted masterpieces, just because there's a lesson to learn and all kinds of mistakes. The community design challenge, the Halloween challenge, which is why I picked this piece and delayed it a little bit because it's very Halloween-y. Is up, so it'll be due next Thursday before Halloween, the 28th. Can't wait to see what you guys design. It's all ghoulish and pumpkin-y and classic Halloween aesthetic. You can take it a bit further than that. You don't have to draw a jack-o'-lantern or anything. Follow me on Instagram for more daily sketch challenges. If you learned something today and want to give back, please consider joining as a patron for $1 a month. It's not a lot. It's kind of an untraceable amount, but if everybody comes together and joins, the channel will always have that backup support, especially during these times where it feels like my channel has been shadow banned, as they say. I'm not sure what that means yet, but it feels very much like what I'm feeling inside. I feel a lot of shadow inside my heart for what's happening to my channel. Notifications aren't going out. Please make sure you turn on your bell. Even with the bell on, sometimes sometimes it doesn't notify. So please try to make sure you stay vigilant with the notification bell. I don't even know what that means. And Portrait Studio is still on sale. I'm just gonna keep it at this price at this point, just because it feels very unfair to raise it back that high. And that's it. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you guys on Tuesday next week at 5 p.m. Eastern time. You guys only have one more critique hour till the Halloween challenge, so you still have time to join if you're interested in joining. Go to the Reddit to find it. Bye guys.